Hello there, I am Andre from Peak Motorcycles. I'm here at EICMA 2025 and behind me is the frankly massive QJMotor stand. So I think they are giving Honda a good run for the money as to just how many different models of different vehicles they can cram onto one stand. So we only get a relatively small number of these in the UK. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a walk around the stand. I will try and show you as much as I can. I'm not going to show you every possible model because in adventure bikes they seem to cover every possible displacement. I think they have 125s, 150s, 160s, 200s, 210s, 250s, 300s, 350s. The list goes on and they all kind of look the same and I can't ride any of them. So other than showing you them, telling you what they've got, yeah, I don't think that's that helpful. What I can do is I'm going to walk around. If I see anything that's I think a bit more relevant or useful or interesting to people that normally watch the channel, so anything that's a bit more trail and adventure-y or anything I think is particularly innovative, then I will stop and spend a little bit more time on that bike. However, wish me luck, we're going in. Right then, we are starting with the scooters. As you can see, they have scooters all shapes and sizes. I think we've even got one over there that's a 700cc, down to this tiny little thing, this BQ, which is very cutesy. It looks like it's just made out of eggs. Yeah, egg shapes all over it. That is kind of an odd looking thing, but I actually quite like that. You know, these little things like having the control buttons look a bit like a video game controller. That must be electric. It's covered in like smooth surfaces with that single-sided swing arm in there at the back. Coming over here, let's see what else we have. And maybe these are all just electric. That's it, all electric scooters. And at the end they have an electric sports bike. No sitting, as it says on top. This is the OAO, so it'll do 60 miles an hour. It's got a rated power of 5 kilowatts. Yeah, it looks kind of interesting. I think that is essentially a 125 equivalent. I'm going to walk through, and bear in mind these are just the electric scooters. This isn't all the scooters they have. What we're going to look at is all the UTVs and ATVs and quads. Again, as you can see, they have them all different shapes and sizes. There isn't a lot of information about these, only about this side-by-side, the SFV 1000X. Again, looks like a pretty serious thing. Now, when I've seen some of these from other manufacturers where they're using third-party components, QJMotor are big enough so they make their own. They've got their own shocks in the front of that. This is a two-cylinder V-twin, making around 98 Newton meters of torque, 88 horsepower, 99 horsepower. So I'm sure that thing goes pretty well. Coming down the other end, another petrol powered one, and then at the end we do actually have I think an electric quad bike. We're now into other scooters, so here we have a Fort 600cc scooter. It looks quite cool. Into a 350, sort of with a high windscreen, more of a city scooter. Then another Fort 4.0, Fortress, sorry, that is 4.0. I'm guessing that's not a 4 litre, probably a 400cc. It's a 350 that makes around 33 horsepower. Coming here we have some QJ custom merch, and then we have another row of scooters. So this is exactly what I meant. They have this one in a 200, a 125, another 125 and a 300. And yeah, they just, yeah, they have pretty much every style of bike for every market. It really is quite incredible just how many similar silver looking bikes. Now when I walk around Honda, it feels as busy as, if not busier than this, but that's because they have every bike in every colorway. I mean, for a lot of these, they just have one of each, and they've still got literally, I'm guessing there must be hundreds of bikes here. Right, let's have a look at the cruisers. We have their SRV12, which is a two-cylinder 125cc cruiser. It's a fairly big bike. Most of these cruisers seem to be, but I think they're also fairly small replacements. We have a 700, we have a 600, we have this Imperiale, which looks vaguely familiar. It's a little bit like the Benelli, the 400, could well be the same bike. It's a 400 single. Coming down this end, we have a sidecar outfit alongside the SFT 900s. That's their 900cc adventure bike with a sidecar that goes with it. I don't know if you've ever ridden in or on a sidecar, but they're actually kind of fun, but maybe a bit niche. A couple more cruisers. Here we have a 4-cylinder, a V4 600cc cruiser, and then another 400cc V-twin. Like I say, they have not only every displacement, they all seem to have every possible engine configuration. Here we have a corner of naked bikes. This one here looks kind of interesting, a little 125. Looks a bit like a Super Sports. I was trying to work out if that was a battery pack under there, but I think that's just luggage. I think the motor's all in there at the back. Down the front, two quite smart looking roadsters. This one is based around a 500cc platform, and again available as a 600. Coming over here, we also have it as a 700. Yeah, see what I mean? And then we have it again as an 800. So you can pick the colour, they're all red and grey. This one in particular is the 800, that's the biggest of the lot. So I'll pause here for a moment. So that's actually available as an 800 with up to 125 horsepower. I don't know what state of tune that needs to be in for that. Looks like you can have that as a 95.2, 125.2 or 100 horsepower variant. Yep, and just when I thought I'd gone up as far as I could go with a 900, we have this, which is an SRK 921, which actually looks pretty smart. You know, that has a single-sided swing arm. Yeah, you know, to look at the fit and finish, this has got a Marzocchi steering damper, it's got Brembo brakes, even that dash looks pretty nice. So yeah, these bikes are kind of cool. Now they have had a partnership in the past with MV Agusta, and I think some of the design features, some of the design cues we see on these bikes have definitely been the result of that relationship. And continuing on from that 900cc SRK, we now have a 250 with similar styling. Let's come down this side, let you have a look at the other side of the bike. And again, I think that's a quite nice looking 250cc naked bike. Right then, so these look like some of the bikes I've actually been showing off here. So I guess this must be what's new. So this particular one is an SRK 250 SR. 250cc, really, really nicely finished. You know, that looks like a step above the other things that I've been looking at. Steeply humped tank, you know, nice seat on there. It is still just a 250, but with those clip-on bars, you know, adjustable suspension, quite a mean looking front end with those gold wheels. Right then, this might be a bit more interesting to the audience on the channel, and it is the Rhino 900. Now I actually think that's quite a distinctive and quite good looking adventure bike. Yeah, 900 cc's. It's got like a belly pan down there. It looks certainly, I mean, I can see where it's got its Rhino name from, but that certainly looks a lot different to anything else that's really out there on the market. Not sure about the orange indicators in there. Let's come around and give you a look into the cockpit. It does still have a keyed ignition. It's got quite a nice dash that is in there. Just have a quick look at what's actually in that Rhino. That is a 3-cylinder 900cc engine, makes about 120 horsepower, 93 newton meters of torque. Yeah, I think that's cracking. And the last bike we have up here is the SRK 500 RS, which is a Super Sports. And again, I think that actually looks pretty good. I mean, it's only 500 cc's, it's fairly small displacement, but that's also available, just to continue the theme of what I mentioned before, as a 250, a 421 or a 450. Yeah, I think that's certainly something quite special. And here we have that 250RR version of the same bike. And again, it's only a 250, it's a small displacement sports bike, but I think that looks quite nice. You know, I'm sure there'll be other opinions out there, but if you're coming from a 125, you know, you certainly can't afford to buy, never mind run or insure, a 650 or a 700 or a litre bike, then maybe this is the sort of thing for you. Right then, now we have this that looks a bit like a muscle bike. This is the SRV 600 VH Cruiser. This has got a 4-cylinder V4, 561 cc's, makes about 70 horsepower. But it looks like a really big bike. I mean, you know, with those sorts of figures, it's not really going to shift. But then again, I suppose it depends what you're comparing it with. A Rocket 3, it ain't. But for a cruiser, you know, it's looking at the quality of the build and the finish and how all these bits have been put together. It is a little bit steampunk, especially looking at that front headlamp. But I'm sure that would find a market, you know. Right then, should we start on the adventure bikes? Because as in the other areas where they have them in every displacement, it is exactly the same here. So we have a 500, a red 500 with gold wheels. This one over here I did see earlier. This is their 300DX, which looks a little bit like my CRF 300 Rally, and I suspect that is exactly what it's aimed at. 300cc trail bike, sort of tall windscreen, comes with a rack with that exhaust on the back with the two exhaust pipes coming down the side. Looks pretty tidy, I think. Yeah, comes with handguards, decent mirrors, you know, charging point, adjustable suspension. And this 300DX, as you see there from the front end, there's a bit of Africa Twin about it. in its 300cc cylinder form, it's got a 30-litre fuel tank, pretty much the same as CRF Rally, and 154 kilos, which is not a bad weight. You know, sometimes you see these bikes and when you get up and close, they are super heavy. Speaking of which, we also have this CVH 250L, which looks like an air-cooled 250 single. Not a bad looking bike, I'm sure it would find its market somewhere. It's a mere 126 kilograms. It's carbed, you know, it's not got fuel injection, it's only made for certain countries in the world, probably don't get it through European emissions. It's 20 horsepower though, and you know, I'm sure those are cheap as chips wherever they're sold, and that looks like a fine bike. You know, that's very similar to the 200cc bikes I use for my tours in Colombia. Next up, we have a 450cc rally bike. It's got a few things that look a little bit similar to what I've got on my Code 450 really. Comes with a steering damper. It's got, again, a big portrait orientated dash. They've got a couple of, well, they're not Zeus connectors, but they look a bit like them for removing that front end. And yeah, rally bike seems to be all the rage at the moment. And even with this, you can have it as either a 450 or a 500. Having said that, that's probably a state of tune. Looking at the power figures that are on there, I'm sure they've got both have the same 450cc unit. It makes about 48 horsepower. Come over here, we've now got some enduro bikes. Here we have their 500X, which I'm guessing is a 450cc 4-stroke. That makes around 48 horsepower. And again, you know, a lot of these things would come down to pricing. They might not be up there with the top spec competition bikes, but I don't think that's a bad looking thing if they started bringing those in at 134 kilos. Yeah, it's not got premium spec components all over it, but for a lot of people, they don't need that. And if it gets people out and riding for a lower cost, then maybe that's something. You can also get it as a 125, and again, it looks a bit more serious than some of the 125s that I've been looking at the show so far. And that's 125 kilos. But again, also looks pretty good. That's the COV 125X. So now we have a whole raft of other 600s. Now this one is the SRT 600 SX. Looking at that, I'm guessing that's a parallel twin, probably a 550 or a 600. Yeah, it's 554 cc's. Windscreen comes with spotlights, comes with full luggage. Along here we now have the SRT 600X, slightly different, and SVT 650. I mean, it's 236 kilos, 47 horsepower if it's restricted, 76 if it isn't. 700 is the next step up. 700X, which no doubt is a slightly different spec again. And here we have the SRT 800 RX. I think this was the bike I saw last year that actually had a slightly lower weight than some of the others, which looked kind of interesting. But let's pause here for a moment. I'll give you a bit of a look across it. So this one's got all the luggage. Actually has quite a low seat that's on it. Yeah, I think that's quite nicely spec'd up. But the very last one up here at the end is the SRT 900 SX, which again has all the luggage fitted to it with the QJMotor branding on it. It's got a big old tank on it. I'm sure these things are reasonably heavy. This particular one weighs in at 264 kilos. So, you know, making components light costs money, so I'm sure this is being made to a budget. Right, I'm nearly finished. I think this video's up to about 18 minutes, which is way longer than I'm really willing to edit. So I can show you a snowmobile, and then here we have automatic 250 cruiser, and then right at the very end we have some super sports. So first up we have this race bike, this QJMotor race bike that looks like it's been fully pimped up with everything. And guess what? We have sports bikes in every possible flavour. So let's just quickly whiz through these. The SRK 600 RS. Here we have another one with a single-sided swing arm. That's a 500 RR. What are we looking at here? A 421. So that must be an A2 compliant, slightly smaller model. And then we have a 450, 421, or a 250, and finally an SRK 125R. I mean, there really are a huge number of these bikes here. Right then, let's have a look at the very last row. I'm almost at this edge of the stand, so I think I must be nearly done. This is the SRK 800 RR, 211 or 214 kilos, 800cc inline 4. I mean, that looks pretty nuts, really. It will make up to 125 horsepower. Also available as an SRK 800 RC. This also makes only 125 horsepower. That's not available in the different tunes, but that looks pretty good. We then have the SRK 921 RR, makes 128 horsepower, and yeah, this is again another one that has some of those details I think that they've picked up from their collaboration with MV Agusta, in particular that slash cut exhaust at the back there. So this might even be one of the bikes that uses the modified MV Agusta motor. Yeah, I mean that is quite striking for a lot of people out there, including me. You're probably unlikely to ever own an MV Agusta, but if there was a similar bike, similar character, similar design, but not quite as much at a lower cost point, then I'm sure this would find a market. I know when I first covered QJMotor and they had some of the prototypes for these bikes, several people said to me, oh look, that's just a rip-off, that's just a copy of MV Agusta. But you know, with the joint venture, I think what MV can learn from production and quality control and getting things done, they can share some information back on design. Last of all, we have the SRK 1051RR. So this is, I guess, their flagship, which is 144 horsepower. Yeah, that really is quite the bike, and again, as a result of part of the collaboration with MV Agusta. Have to see whether this video is longer or shorter than my video from the Honda stand, but I'm guessing it's going to be up there. I'm nearly losing my voice. Maybe that's a good thing as well. So I hope that was interesting and useful. I know it was a very quick whistle-stop tour around, but hopefully it gives you an idea of the scale of production and the choices that companies like QJMotor are coming up with. You can now buy QJMotor bikes in the UK. If you hadn't heard of them, I think you'll be hearing of them very soon. Hopefully that was useful and interesting. And if it was, maybe you'll check out some of my other content. Thank you for watching.